We are back. We are back. We have a new major champion in golf. Who would have thought? SGA goes back to back. Uh, we have a game 7 tonight in the NBA. We have a game 7 tomorrow in the NHL. A lot has been going on. Me and Jerry are here. Trevor's not with us. No baby yet. He's just not with us. Had a dinner with that side of the family and forgot about it. Typical Trevor, saying he would be able to do it not. So, no, but he's not here because he does not have a child. So we want to make that abundantly clear. But yeah, Jerry, look, a lot's going on in sports, which is we always talk about. Oh, after football, there's nothing. There's nothing. A lot going on. The double glove bandit. I guess we'll start there because it's official. They've been etching his name on the trophy for like the last 30 minutes, but Aaron Rai wins the PGA Championship. It's his first major. He's the first English golfer to win since 1919, which is very interesting. He was also, I do a, I don't know if you ever did it at WNDU, Jerry, but I do like the golf team picks. We do that. Right?
You never invited me to this prestigious
Yeah,
club.
so I do that, and so you pick golfers, and for the list I had for the odds, he was on the third page. He was plus 22,500 to win this tournament. Third page. I mean, he had names. Keith Mitchell was next to him, Nick Taylor, who both those guys kind of did good. He had better odds than Max Homa, but I mean, was behind guys like Corey Connors, Brian Harmon, like he was deep. He was deep in the weeds. Ends up winning it, first major. I think the problem with this tournament and this major is going to be it's the PGA Championship, which everybody looks at as the fourth. But everybody's going to talk about the conditions because that's what everybody was crying about at the golf course just outside of Philly there. When you have Scotty Scheffler walking off Friday saying it was the hardest conditions he's ever played in his career because of where they put the pin locations. I like it when golf is like that. I like it when they're challenged and it's hard because, look, I golfed today and it was challenging and it's hard. So I like it when they have to not look like immortals and not be able to break away. Rory was crying about, no one's able to pull away. Well, Aaron Rai won by 3 shots, so he pulled away. And it was right on par for what a tough major is, 9, 10 under in that area is 9 under. So I don't know. I just think that's going to be the problem with this is 1, it's Aaron Rai, 2, it's the PGA, and 3, it's going to be everybody complaining about the conditions that they played in. And because they made the course tough. And I don't know. I like it. I like the U.S. Open style feel of it. And look, it's not every year that you're going to get a PGA like this, but it was fun.
That's the thing. To your point, Keller, you kind of said this is like USA, U.S. Open type of vibe, and I think that's kind of what's made this PGA Championship interesting. Is usually the complaints you get from the U.S. Open is, oh my God, I can't hit my club out of the rough. It's so deep. Oh my God, this pin's impossible to hit. All these, you would have all the exact same complaints as a normal U.S. Open for this PGA, but you kind of had those same problems. So that's unique because some years of PGA, that's like the, oh my God, this guy's 17 under. This guy's 18 under, and it's a race to like 50, it feels like. A very interesting top 5, I think, also from this with movers and shakers. John Rahm finishing second after disappointing Masters overall. Justin Thomas shooting up as well. Allberg not finishing out a Sunday. That's a thing I'm really curious about because I think he could be a future face of golf. And he struggled here and then. Xander Schauffele hitting outside the top 10. So there's interesting. Also, Cameron Smith. I feel like I never
he's back.
So that was fun to see. Him in the top 5 or sneaking out in the top 10, I should say. He was tied 7th. But every once in a while, even at a PGA, right, which is made out that big name, you have that big field, you just get a winner. You're like, whoa, okay, right? This kind of feels like JJ Spawn last year. Like JJ Spawn's a good golfer, so is Aaron Rai. It's like, oh, he could just win this and play it out. And yeah, Gail, to your point, all the complaints on the conditions and all this other stuff, the guy ends in 9 under, other guys are ending 6, 5, 4 under, and it's also a major tournament. I get it if this is one of those, like, either not the pro-ams, but kind of like midsummer tournaments, and it's like, why is this so hard in the PGA? Okay, I can see why. This is a major. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be challenging. That's why when we grade the greatest golfers of all time, we go to majors, right? We don't go to just PGA wins, etc. That adds on to this. But that's one of the big discussions. So having a course be challenging when it's a major tournament, I don't think is a problem. Even if it's not known for, the PGA is not known for having the hardest courses, hardest tracks, etc. it's cool to throw a curveball, and it's cool to see a guy you don't see often win one. Now, Aaron Rye's going to be a great like Jeopardy contestant name in like 20 years, or your Bar Sports trivia guy. But it's like, who is the first English guy since who knows what to win a PGA Championship? And then your one buddy who's a golf nerd is going to know this one. That's what it kind of feels like at the end of the day, long term. I'm not going to take a lot away from this tournament for the season, but it's fun to have a winner you don't think of every once in a while. And it's fun to have a course that's challenging for a major tournament. And it gave us everything you could ask for. So shout out the suburbs of Philly, good 4 days, and also a few pretty nice days out there. You could start to feel the summer out there. And that's always fun to watch, especially that now I'm inspired to go out and shoot terribly, kind of like you did today. I already know you did. You don't have to tell me.
I didn't play great. I thank God I played in a scramble, which was good. But yeah, no, I think that's the thing too. And I was watching Golf Channel Thursday night when they did their live from, and I guess that they had talked to some people from the course, and they had a PGA event there at this same course a few years back, and guys shot crazy numbers there. And they said, when we get the PGA tournament and the PGA Championship, we're making it 100 times harder. We're not going to allow these guys. I think part of theirs, 70. They had guys going out shooting 62s. I think a guy shot a 60. So they didn't want people to be able to do that for a major. And I do agree. It's a major championship. It should be hard. It shouldn't be easy to win. And there was plenty of chances for a lot of guys. Like you said, John Rahm, Justin Thomas did all he could, Oberg, Xander Schauffele, Rory, Scotty, those guys, there were a chance for you to make a move and take it. Aaron Rye was the guy that did that. But yeah, this was just a wacky year. I mean, so tied for third place is Matty Schmidt. I don't think anybody knows who that is. Also tied for third is Alex Smalley. I don't think anybody knows who he is. This name, Kurt Kimaya, tied for 10th.
It's not good if none of us know him. Me and you both know him.
I mean, I watch golf on the regular, and I don't know who most of these guys are. I mean, you had Patrick Harrington finish tied for 18th in this tournament. Patrick Harrington is, 50 years old?
Yeah, just throw it. It feels like we're playing the name of Guess Who. Like, you could honestly at this point, Caleb, throw a name like I've never heard of, and like, is this a golfer or not that finished the top 20 of this tournament? And I could get probably 4 of them wrong.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I think that's just what's fun about this tournament. You have guys come in that, you think, oh, it's going to be Scotty. He's going to be able to do it. Didn't really get to it. I think with Scotty and Rory, they let the course get to them, and they overthought it, and they complained about it, and they didn't like it, and they let that kind of ruin their game, I think. To me, honestly, I think Scotty did for sure. He kind of let frustration get to him on a couple shots that normally doesn't happen for him. But yeah, no, look, shout out to Aaron Rye. I mean, look, he made an 80-footer, I think, on was it 16 or 17 for birdie. I mean, just incredible. That pretty much slammed it. But yeah, I mean, now the question is he the guy that can now take this and continue the major momentum, or does he become another long list of guys that wins one and is just kind of around the tour for the next 10 to 15 years? But I think it is interesting when you have people that nobody really knows about come in and win. But like I said, I think sadly for him is the storyline and the takeaway is going to be, oh my gosh, it was such a hard course. Everybody was crying about it. But like I said, it's a major. It's got to be hard. And for us watching at home, it's nice when they struggle. Like a U.S. Open where they're over par, that feels really good because you're like, wow, even they have to they have to change their game. They have to think a little bit. They can't just go out there, mash balls, and do what they do. But no, it was really fun to watch. Nolan says, gentlemen, welcome back. Nolan's happy to be alive, mind you. He called me yesterday. He got cut or sliced by a boat propeller yesterday. He's lucky to be alive. I don't know how he's feeling. I'm sure he's hurting a lot, but I'm glad that our loyal viewer is still there and kicking. All right, Jerry, this was interesting right here. This kind of got leaked, supposedly, and it wasn't supposed to get leaked. Shams leaked this morning. It wasn't supposed to be announced till tonight on Prime during the Pistons-Cavs game, I guess, supposedly. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes back-to-back with the MVPs. This is a crazy number. This is much higher number than I thought. He's now the 14th player in NBA history to go back-to-back with MVPs. That is.
You have these weird runs of guys who will do that, right? Like my favorite's always like Steve Nash. There's like a back-to-back MVP, right? Like you throw those back there. You can find a lot of them in the history where guys like, oh my God, that guy had a run.
Do you know the 3 guys that have won 3 in a row?
I'd have to assume LeBron's in there.
Nope.
Wow, really? Then Jordan has to be in there.
Nope.
Ooh, I feel terrible now. I'm going to go big scores. Kareem didn't do this at all.
Kareem didn't. Maybe. Let me look. I just looked this up not too long ago. Nope. Kareem did not win 3 in a row.
My last guess has to be like Bill Russell. I'm running out.
Bill Russell. Bill Russell won 3 in a row. Wilt Chamberlain won 3 in a row.
Got my old big men wrong.
And then Larry Bird won 3 in a row.
That's fun. That is fun. Hoosier State legend right there. That's fun.
But I mean the names on the list they're pretty crazy, you know, when you look at it. But yeah, he's now the first since Jokic to go back to back. And Jokic, arguably, some people say he could win 3 in a row. So my question with Shea is it's like I feel like he's not going to win another MVP ever, just based off history, because we get fatigue as like, oh, we need something new in the league there. We have Victor Wembanyama, you know, Cade Cunningham has played well this year, so it's like the league. My thing with this is interesting, and I'll bring it up to you here. A question is, do you think that the NBA has kind of hurt Shea's greatness based off of the fouling and stuff with the Thunder and how they kind of handle that? Because to me, I think they have, because they have turned a guy in a city, in a team, into where you want to feel good for them, or a player that kind of came out of nowhere, you know, was traded in the Paul George trade. You're supposed to feel good. He's kind of risen up to now be the best player in the league. But it feels like nobody likes him based off of how the officiating happens. And I don't know. It just kind of feels like to me the NBA has kind of ruined him and maybe this team based off of how they've kind of handled some things and how maybe we'll view him as a great player someday.
I go back and forth on this because you can make that same argument for James Harden. I think now, as we get to the end, more of the end of the career of James Harden, that notion's kind of died out, right? Like James Harden used to be the step back. He's traveling all the time. He baits these fouls, all this. And now we're like, oh my God, he was a 30-point scorer who revolutionized in some ways scoring to even create some of what SGA, I would say, continually does all the time, right? But leaning into those fouls, getting to the free throw line, etc. So maybe in the right now, right at this moment, you might be going, yeah, you know, he's being hated. I don't think he's getting the same love, appreciation. The NBA's done that. Sure, but like, I think the hardest part about the NBA in a sport like this is that these guys are all really, really good to where you have to do things to be creative, to be great, right? And then we're also in an era that is so athletically gifted too, right? Not to make the plumbers argument of like the 60s, 70s, like these guys don't do anything, right? But like, look who we have on the court. These average NBA guys now are just so athletic, so gifted, etc. That like you have to play by the margins. The best ones win by the margins, right? And like Shea's not a super athlete. Shea's a great athlete. He's not like the greatest athlete on the floor at all times, but he is a smooth basketball player. He plays annoying. He plays ticky-tack, but it's also really successful. And at this level where one foul makes a difference, where one pump fake might not work, right? All those little things, you can get away with them in college. You can get away with them in high school. You're playing against the best of the best. You have to do things to win. And I think more than anything, the fact that he is now the best player on what feels like still the best team in the NBA. And they have to prove it now again. But if they come out of the series, I'll make it better. But even before this again, right? We have not talked about the Thunder that much in the playoffs. He's one of the reasons why. Because they keep winning. Because they keep dominating teams. And he is the centerpiece of it. So, yeah, it may not be the most ethical hoops, right? Because that's kind of the argument of Shea is like, this is unethical basketball. He's not doing this and that. But this is a guy who doesn't, you know, he's not shooting 33s. He's really silky with the ball. And honestly, half of his buckets are more ethical than the guys who just sit in the corner, or even like a Curry that's pulling the 40 footers. He's doing weird mid ranges, right? He's getting in the post here and there. He's just a true scorer. And I think that over time that will become more appreciated. Right now, he's just in the peak of being really good. And that's also a really fun team. And also, if you really don't like him, a really easy team to hate. So it adds on to it. But if Oklahoma City's playing the villains, they're doing a great job. And sometimes you need a villain to make things interesting. So if that's what Shea has to be right now to make this better, I'm okay with that, especially because you don't just make 30 by accident. He doesn't get all 30 from the free throw line. Like there's more that goes into it. And guess what now? We're on year 2 of this extended MVP level stuff. Guys can figure it out. They watch tape. They know how this goes. This is an 82-game season. You have the data, etc. So if you keep performing at this high of a level, you should be rewarded. You may not have to love it, but it's not like if he was that easy to stop, they would have figured it out by now.
Well, I also think that the Thunder, it's just ironic because they're playing the Spurs. They kind of feel like that Spurs with Tim Duncan in them, where it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, they're just boring. There's nothing exciting about them. They just are very efficient. They go out, play their game. They have one really great player and just very good players around them, a deep bench. They just feel like that. And I think that's the other thing that kind of hurts them is there's nothing flashy or exciting. They just go, they win games, they do what they can, they get help from a variety of players, and they have one guy kind of in the center of it. So yeah, it is just interesting though because it will be interesting to see how we look at Shea in 20 years from now because it's how you look at Harden, you look back on those years with Harden, you go to his numbers, you're like he was averaging 30 points and 12 assists. It's like you don't realize that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see looking back. But yeah, I mean, if they go back to back, his case just continues to rise and it continues to grow, and it's just very interesting. But yeah, it's just like with anything. When teams are really good, that's better for the sport. When you have dynasties, for the leagues, and they're just getting to that point where it's just like, oh my gosh, they swept the first round, they swept the Lakers. They're just kind of there. They've won so many games in a row in the playoffs, and it's just one of those things. But for him to go back to back, I think is really good. But history kind of shows that maybe that could be his last MVP, especially recently. So that will be very interesting moving forward. Speaking of the rest of the NBA playoffs, we do have a game 7 tonight. This series is one of those where it feels like whoever wants it can have it and take it. There's been controversy in this series, especially with one of the games. But it is now back in Detroit. It is tonight at 8 o'clock on Prime. I mean, I think the Pistons are going to win, but I'm not like fully sure about that. But I will say, whoever does win this game has a very high advantage just based off the Knicks feel like they've been sitting for 6 months.
It kind of also depends on how this game 7 goes. I think this game 7 is going to be ugly, right? Like the Pistons at their best are physical. They beat you up over time. Cade's a really physical guard. Jalen Duren is obviously a very physical big man. Now, this is not the bad boy Pistons that, Trevor not dead, just, waiting and not here today. Love dearly, right? Like it's not that type of beat down, but they beat teams down over time. And so, like, if Detroit does that, right? If let's say Detroit comes out of this, they might come out a little banged up, a little beat up. This is the second 7-game series now that you're going into. If Cleveland comes out victorious here, and they have not done well on the road, granted they've won one on the road in Detroit, so that's a big thing to keep a note of, right? They're not going to do it. It's not going to be cute, right? It's going to be ugly, and that's going to be a slugfest to where, weirdly, the one constant on the eastern side of this playoff bracket has been the Knicks. The Knicks, they had a little bit of fun in the first round. After they kind of let, all the noise go, they beat the hell out of Atlanta. And then I thought the 76ers kind of were starting to figure it out. I know they're an older team. Dead wrong on that. Knicks were absolutely fantastic. Didn't feel like a chance that whole series, right? So, like, probably the most chaotic part of the East is the fact that the Knicks are the most steady team. And so I don't think that whoever comes out of this has a big advantage because of sitting, especially because this has been a really grit and grind series, which does kind of feel like these two teams' cores at the end of the day. Even with, right, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, sitting there for the Cavaliers, you're not like, oh, yeah, that's a team that's super always physical. Evan Mobley is a guy. He's fun. I love watching him play. I hate the fact this game's on Prime. You want to talk about my big takeaway? This is the dumbest thing. I really understood the first round of the NBA playoffs being on Prime. There's a lot of games. The NBA playoffs are arguably too long. They go on forever. Game 7, Sunday night at 7 p.m., and you are not on a major network?
That's just how it is, Jerry. They
That
don't
feels like a miss.
they don't
Am I crazy?
don't have very many. I agree with you. The Prime thing, I agree with you. The play-in in the first round have some games on Prime. But yeah, when you get down to this part of the season, but the problem is they have two major network partners now, and that is NBC and that is ESPN, and so they have the Western Conference Finals, and so I mean, this is just kind of one of those. Hey, we'll throw Amazon a bone, and also if you're the NBA, they're throwing a lot of money at you. This is interesting too. I've heard somebody say this. I'd credit Chris Mad Dog Russo with this. Is unlike the NFL, the NBA, NHL, and MLB, their games and their scheduling is controlled by the networks and the TV partners that they have who they work with. The NFL controls everything. They say when they want a game time, where they want the game at, what game they want where. So these other leagues have just kind of left it up to these networks that they work with and the streaming partners. And this is a clear example of being like, hey, this is a big game to move on in the Eastern Conference Finals. Knick fans are going to be watching this game. And yeah, let's throw it on Prime Video. It just feels like a throwaway. I agree. It should be on. It should be on NBC or it should be on ABC.
This is an ABC game. This is a perfect ABC Sunday night game because now the NBC has the MLB on Sunday nights. Okay, you can't do the Sunday night. That's fine. How about you put? And even though they've also flexed, I think some of the NBC games for the playoffs, they've flexed the baseball games. Okay, let NBC have the baseball game. Rivalry weekend, we'll probably talk about a little bit of that at the end of the show. I have all these great games. Cool. We'll keep the MLB this Friday. ABC, what are you airing tonight? Like, this feels like a perfect opportunity to flex.
Probably.
And this has been a good series. And, especially because, I think the last 15 to 20 years, maybe a little less than that, one of the big complaints about the NBA is these guys aren't competitive. These games are 130 to 120. No one plays defense. I'm not talking about a game that's going to have that. It's this one, right? It's going to be physical. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to feel like two heavyweight fighters going back and forth. And we're throwing this on Prime on a week, especially now as we get later into the playoffs and you have less competition. I find that fascinating in terms of that. And I don't want to get overly into this broadcast. We can go all day about how this is dumb. I just hate that because I think this is going to be a really good game. But I do think the battle scars from whoever comes out here is going to be a little bit more immense than the team that gets to sit a little bit, especially because this is not the Knicks team with Tom Thibodeau anymore. If this was the Thibodeau team, I'd be like, okay, yeah, they've already beat themselves up so much. They look a little bit more healthy. They're playing a little bit more healthy because as much as I love Tom Thibodeau, I really do. He gave me some of my best years as a Bulls fan. He beats the heck out of his players. You're not having that Mike Brown right now. They look more relaxed. They are more healthy in comparison to years past. So whoever comes out of this, I have no clue what the East still looks like, but I like the Knicks more and more. The West, though, just feels like such a fun series. We're talking about back-to-back MVPs, SGA.
This is our next 10 years on the West, Jerry.
And you want to talk about what can be defining in terms of a dynasty, not dynasty. I feel like this series has that right in front of us because Oklahoma City, one of the few teams they've struggled with mightily, is the Spurs. If I remember, I think they played 4 times this year, and the Spurs are 3-1. And you know what? Both teams were in those games. This was the chirping games. We're going back and forth. Wemby was talking a little, all this type of stuff. Like, we saw this in the regular season. These guys don't like each other, right? And in a league that also has the complaints of everyone's buddy-buddy, everyone likes each other. These teams don't. Like, there's some real animosity here, and you have 2 young cores that have done really well, have been very exciting, very fun. Like, yeah, the East will be a little bit chaotic, but God, the West has done everything we wanted to. And I think then some, right? If you care about the history of the game, LeBron got one more really good series where he really got to show he's a fantastic player. Whatever his future holds, you can hold on this, right? That's an awesome thing to have. You have questions for a major contender with the Nuggets, right? A team that won it a couple years ago. That core is still there, but they're getting older. What's going on there? And then you have 2 teams who've been really good all regular season. You're 1 and 2. They've shown up, and they've played really well this whole NBA playoffs. So the East will be exciting. God, the West is going to be fun. I cannot wait for this series. I cannot wait to watch the basketball. This is the highest level of the sport, and I think it at everything on the line. And we need to build this up, right? If you're the NBA, you need to have everything on this. You need to make this a big deal. Not that the finals won't be. Whoever's in the finals on both sides, I guarantee will bring a lot of love. All 3 of the teams left on the East, great fan bases. The 2 teams in the West, great fan bases. This is a perfect year to build things up and build up your next generation. You have it right in front of you. This feels like a perfect playoffs to do so. Let's see if they do.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point where you do have the young stars. You have the SGAs, you have the Victor Wembanyama's, you have the Knicks as a whole with Jalen Brunson and those guys. And then you have, Cade Cunningham with the Pistons and Donovan Mitchell with the Cavaliers. So it is a good time to kind of pass the torch. Thunder Spurs game 1 is tomorrow at 8:30 on NBC. There you go. It's on NBC. But this will be interesting too because if you look back towards just kind of how basketball was back in 80s, 90s, it's you played a team, you probably lost to them a couple times. They ended up being champs, and then you were then able to overtake them, and that happened with the Celtics and the Pistons, and then the Pistons and the Bulls. So I think it'll be very interesting to see is are the Spurs ready to take on the defending champs? Do they have what it takes now? Because I could argue that their core that they have is just as good as the Thunder's core. It's just younger. With all they have, like they have the depth as well. They have the one singular guy in the middle that can kind of hold the team in. They're just younger, so with less experience. So I think that will be interesting. But that could also help them just based off of not going on long playoff runs, the last couple years. And so I do agree with you. This is very exciting for anybody that maybe hasn't been high into watching the NBA for many reasons. This is a series that's like, all right, like this is what we want, this is what we expected, and this could very well happen for the next 5 to 10 years of these two teams battling to go to the NBA Finals. And maybe we can look back on this and say whoever wins this series easily is going to win the championship. And we can do that the next 5 years at least, just based off of the teams that they have and everything moving forward. So, yeah, I do agree with you. It will be very exciting. It'll be fun. And it's exactly what the NBA needs.
And I'll make this final point before we move on to the NHL playoffs. One of the interesting things, and I think this year can be a great case study for it, depending on how the year goes, is the NBA. One of the knocks in the early 2010s that we haven't seen as much in the 2020s was it was too repetitive, that only the finals mattered, right? Because every year we got the Cleveland, Golden State finals. Everyone looked forward to it, but everyone kind of knew it was coming, right? And fans are like, we're tired of these dynasties. We're tired of continuous, the same two teams, the same three teams every year having a shot, and no one else had that. The NBA went out of their way to try to balance the sport as much as possible. The hard part is it's really hard to balance basketball. Everyone is really spoiled by the NFL. And I want to make that abundantly clear. The fact that how close NFL teams are to one another is an anomaly in professional sports, just flat out. Game over there, right? So, but everyone else is like, oh my God, look at this year the Bears, right? A team that was like, oh, it's supposed to be good. They were just a few steps away from the Super Bowl, right? Me and you, as much as I know Caleb was telling me we were going to book our tickets, part of that was a joke. We were like, we just want to have some hope. And oh my God, we did it, right? And then next year, they might regress. Who knows, right? One year, the Jets might figure it out. They're not, all those teams are not that far. In the NBA, that's not been the case, right? But now you had so many different champions last couple of years that you've slowly gotten away from the, oh yeah, these two teams can meet for a while. And that's been by design. But that might end again. Will that be good or will that be bad? Because that was a complaint years ago. And then now it's everyone's winning a title. Oh, but the ratings are still bad. Oh, no one's paying attention, all this other stuff. Do you have to go back to what works? Or are we going to kind of fall back into that? I'm very curious. And let's say OKC takes this series. You might start having that discussion again. And that's what I find very fascinating. Big picture past this playoffs, even though what we're staring down right now is an epic conclusion to what's been a fun season, just in general. So, again, I am excited for any Game 7, great, two best words in sports. And then you turn around, you have a series that has everything you could ask for, in a series I hope gets the love and attention it deserves. Because if you like basketball, you should like the Western Conference Finals. It will have a little bit of everything. It's going to be awesome for the sport. And it could have a lot of impacts long-term for the sport.
Jerry, I have what's going to be on ABC tonight.
Okay.
American's Funniest Home Videos
mm-hmm.
and Celebrity Jeopardy.
Yeah, it doesn't count Josto's Celebrity Jeopardy. Is that the sports one? They've done like a couple different offshoot Jeopardies.
No, well, I don't
know. Is that Joe Buck? Or did Joe Buck do the sports one?
Joe Buck do the sports one. I know that. They have now, I saw there's like a pop culture Jeopardy. I think Colin Jost maybe hosts that. I just saw that. That might that's on a streaming platform. So I don't know if Ken Jennings hosts Celebrity Jeopardy or not. But that's what's on tonight. So America's Funniest Home Videos, Celebrity Jeopardy, and then there's some betrayal show. I have no idea what the hell that is.
It's always a little concerning when SNL starts turning into like The Simpsons of predicting the future. Because there's the famous SNL skit of Celebrity Jeopardy, like jokes Sean Connery and pick whoever's around him, right? And usually we say about The Simpsons, it's like, oh my God, The Simpsons predicted the future. I'm getting a little concerned if SNL is the next thing to do that.
They're just taking those ideas. They're like, hey, that's actually a pretty good idea. We're going to use that.
What happened to my boy Jeopardy? Used to just be only Jeopardy. Now here we are.
Well, Sports Jeopardy was a thing in like the early 2010s because Dan Patrick used to do it. in the same studio that they did regular Jeopardy. He'd fly out to LA a couple times a year and do it. And then they actually wanted him to become the host of Jeopardy, and he said no. This was way before Alex Trebek was even going to be done or even got sick or anything. So he was supposed to be the guy to do it. So now they're going to – I think ESPN's going to bring it back, and Joe Buck is going to be the host of it, which would be very, very interesting. I think that they should do just like one guy that's just – they used to do the shows like early 2000s. ESPN was like the Swami or something. You went against the one guy, and like he just like – you tried to beat him. It's like the one show where you try to like beat the beast guy or whatever, and you like catch up to you. I think that'd be fun for sport. I don't really care for like sports Jeopardy. It's just like do a show like that where like you're going up against a guy who's supposed to be the best.
Very weird too is that I think Jeopardy is one of the very few shows in modern television that's had a successor that's figured it out, right? Like Alex Trebek, obviously legendary to such a degree. Ken Jennings is really good.
Well, there's nobody else to do it.
But like you don't get that. You don't get that in any other daytime television / like like game show type things. You don't find number two. This is very rare that a guy steps in and is up to the billing. He's not Alex Trebek. I want to make that abundantly clear, right?
But
that's
a
one-on-one.
But he is the greatest Jeopardy player of all time.
And he is a great host. Like you don't get that because that guy also, to be a great Jeopardy player, you have to be a nerd. And that's fine. I don't think I'm really offending anyone with that one, right? But to be like a social nerd who like actually is kind of funny and like has some of that wit, very rare. So, the NBA playoffs getting overseeded by the celebrity version of this, the one show that has figured out a successor to its great legendary host. You can't say that all for all the daytime TV. Some of them now have Netflix or Hulu documentaries about how bad that person was.
Yeah,
don't have that back. So Jeopardy wins again.
You do not know that's, but it was also one of the shows that didn't need women to promote their show, so that probably helped a lot back in the day.
That don't hurt.
All right, moving on to the NHL, we have a Game 7 as well tonight, or tomorrow night. We have a Game 7. The Canadiens back in another Game 7. Round 1, they were in a Game 7 with the Lightning. Now they're in a Game 7 with the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres were in a Game 7 too, weren't they?
Let me look back. I think you're right on that.
I think so. We might have back-to-back Game 7s for both teams.
No, they won 4-2.
All right, so there's games. Okay, so they won in 6 games. But so we have Canadiens versus at the Sabres tomorrow, 7:30 on ESPN. The winner plays Carolina. Carolina's just kind of waiting. They're honestly just waiting to make it to the final at this point. It's kind of what we've said all along from the start of this thing. And then we have Golden Knights at the Avalanche. Game 1 for them is Wednesday. Yet again, it's just one of those where we're just kind of waiting on the Avalanche to get to the final. And I think that's just kind of been the theme. Everybody's just kind of been waiting on Colorado and Carolina to just get there and meet. And which for most, this is another good thing for the NHL. Normally, potentially, the 2 best teams don't always make it to the final. This is a rare chance where you could have 2 great teams make it to the final and really give us something that I think can be a very, very good Stanley Cup final.
And even if it, let's say, I'm not sure that the Canadiens, first of all, a Game 7 in Buffalo is awesome. Just that place is going to be insane, right? So I'm very happy for that. That's, again, 2 best words, Game 7. How about you put it in a city that's been dying for hockey success for years now? Oh, you can't write it any better, especially against their neighbors up north, not far away. Come on, sometimes the script writers go crazy. It's also really fun to me that whoever takes on Carolina, we're talking about Carolina as a heavyweight, right? Like that is historically something that has not been the case. And like, I get it. There's been this kind of push of like, oh God, the teams down south in hockey, relatively speaking, have had all this success, blah, blah, blah. Carolina has been absolutely the exception historically. And for them to now be one of the favorites and a team that could be that's sniffing at the finals, and a team we're talking about as if they are to win their next series or they're waiting just to do this, that feels so weird for me to say out loud. It's so weird for me to hear you say that, Caleb, and not be like, are you crazy? Are you mad? Yeah. Like, this is awesome in that sense. Like, on the other side, like Avalanche, Vegas, I really could not care less. Like, Vegas, new team, they've been good. Avalanche have just been so good, right? That's kind of like, okay, is what it is. But, like, it's very funny, we've talked about these 2 different playoffs, and like both sides of the bracket have like kind of the same.
They're very similar. They're very similar
for how different they can be. And usually you get more chaos in hockey. We have not had as much levels of chaos this year, which I think is also interesting because, like you've said earlier, not as many teams. You don't always get your two best teams. This year, you're a better chance at doing that. It's just weird to me that Carolina's one of those teams, and I really hope, just for Buffalo's sake, that Buffalo can walk in there, because even if they're not favored, they're going to be hard to get out. I do not think that series is going to be as easy. I think Colorado probably has an easier path out of the two. I don't trust Vegas, nor also do I think that Colorado's just that darn good. But if Buffalo shows up there, man, I'm saying all this, the Canadians have fought. This is a second game 7 too, to your point. So like, whoever Carolina runs into, I know they've been really good. I think they have a little bit of more of a challenge ahead of them, because both of these teams are really resilient. So I'm very curious on that side of the bracket. And again, it's playoff hockey. Chaos still can exist. Chaos can still happen. A game 7 in Buffalo, a series with Carolina, that is cool. That is just objectively cool, and something that we have not talked about. I don't know the last time you could think about these two teams being in the playoffs, period. So it's cool to have those kind of moments, and to have two teams that have historically struggled now have their moment in the shining light. That's what you hope for as a fan base. That's what you wait for, and a long wait for both of these teams to really have this opportunity. That's so cool.
Well, I think it's also, interesting when you look at it too, where, I think Carolina, when they've made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, has kind of struggled. So it'll be interesting to see how they can kind of do it coming in as such a big favorite. And their team is pretty loaded. They have a bunch of veteran guys who are very good. But yeah, it's just you just look at the teams. So we have Colorado, we have Las Vegas, we have Buffalo, we have Montreal, and then we have Carolina. I mean, who would have thought, when you look at it, these types of teams, these type of brands, and people are still excited about it. It's just kind of propelled by the teams. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, can the Avalanche make it? Can the Hurricane make it? When you look at it moving forward here. Jerry Nolan says, Jerry, sorry, can't contain myself. 13 days away from hopefully Arsenal red all over London, and big one tomorrow for the Prem.
Oh boy, yeah, dude, you want to talk about a stress test of life? Oh my god.
Who do they play in the
Prem? We have Burnley tomorrow. So here's the situation. I will try to walk it through here very quickly. How do I do this? I'm trying to think here. So tomorrow, Arsenal plays Burnley. They're a team that is going to go down a league, because they do that in England, where if you suck enough, you go down, right? Arsenal has to win their next 2 games to guarantee themselves the title. If they win tomorrow, they put all the pressure on the team behind them, Manchester City, who is 2 points off, if I remember correctly, to win the day after. If Man City wins the day after, then it's final day. If Arsenal wins, they guarantee it. Man City has to win and hope Arsenal loses at some point. So it's kind of like this weird chase right at the end up here. The thing is, Arsenal is the most weirdly defensive / we're just going to score 1 goal and be done with it, or score off a corner, etc. And that's how they are. They're a very physical team. They beat teams up, but they're not really fun. They're not like the TikTok videos you see of these crazy passes, and it's oh my god, this crazy shot. Nope. This is like the Detroit Pistons version of European football, where they're all right, we're just going to beat you up. On top of this, all the best teams in Europe play in what they call the Champions League.
Yep.
Arsenal's in the final of that. I know that's part of your wager.
Yeah,
they have PSG, Paris Saint-Germain from.
It's the only reason I know anything about this, Jerry.
Yes. Now, the thing is, I was talking about teams that, make the cool TikTok videos of games where they do the crazy passes. That's PSG. They are one of the best attacking teams, if not the best attacking team in the world. Arsenal, very good at defense. So you have this really rare opportunity for Arsenal to knock out 2 of these. On the side note, Arsenal is great at choking these things away.
Yep.
Historically, they've choked them away the last couple of years. In Europe, they call it a bottle. There is a fantastic photo of a Man City fan when these two teams played, right? Man City 2, Arsenal 1 right now. When they met to tie the Premier League, when Arsenal had a multi-game lead, of him holding a bottle with the Arsenal logo around it, and him drinking out of it, or fake drinking out of it. This is, you want to talk about things that can really get the anxiety going. Is Arsenal, though, they can win convincingly. Burnley, again, team that's going down, all this type of stuff, but they usually don't. It's usually 1-0, all this. The game that they played against West Ham last week, another team that is fighting to not go down a league, they won 1-0 and had a controversial ruling, ironically, on a corner where Arsenal usually scores, ruled in their favor that the West Ham players were like screwing up the goalkeeper and couldn't let him make a save, which blew up Twitter. I'm very thankful for your sake, Caleb, that you do not have European soccer Twitter.
Yeah,
It is both very funny. It is very, very funny, I have to admit. But golly, they were saying some things. So, no, it is a squeaky bum time. Everyone's kind of clenching a little tighter here if you're an Arsenal fan because there's glory in front of you, but this team historically has found ways to not find that glory. And behind them is a team that has been very, very successful in Manchester City in doing so.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only reason I know anything about it is because they're in our 6-leg bet to win the Champions League. So that's the only reason I know anything about this. So that's in 2 Saturdays when they do that. So that's pretty big. But, it also kind of, leads into, getting to know more for the World Cup coming up. So we'll talk about that clearly in the future. One of the guys I played golf with today, he's a big soccer guy. I was talking to him about it, and I was like, who do you think can win it? And, he gave me some dark horses. So he said the Netherlands and Germany as dark horses.
That historically is not a dark horse vibe, but I get his vision. I see it there. I see the vision there.
He told me about Germany was they had a great run, then they sucked, and now they're back again with a great core of players. So he just told me those are 2 dark horses to look out for. But he said that his favorite would be Argentina, and I forget the other team is one of what he thought. Just teams that are playing good.
My guess is France.
Maybe, yeah, just teams that are playing good right now. Going into it. So no, I mean it'll be interesting. The World Cup is coming to America. I've heard so far it sounds like the planning process is a shit show. But we will be on top of that as it gets. It's like 2 months away or something like that?
It's under a month away. We're doing that next month. Long story short is that with the ongoing concerns around overall immigration, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole too much. You have a bunch of people from a bunch of different countries coming to the United States. Yeah. And they were like, you know what? They're going to pay X amount to do these things. They haven't. And for American soccer fans, and we can go on from this. I don't want to spend all day on this. We'll go to American football in about a minute. The World Cup coming is obviously a massive deal. There's games spread across the country, et cetera. And for a lot of, I think, American fans and people who root for Team USA, obviously Americans do, but people who really care about USA soccer, et cetera, and want the game to grow here, this is a perfect opportunity. You can get people in. There's going to be amazing soccer played across the nation. If you have tickets that aren't too crazy, all this and stuff, you can get more people into this, et cetera. This is a great starting point. And then tickets are wildly expensive. And I don't think that they're selling at the rate for the price point that they're at that they thought.
That's right. That's what I've heard.
It's been, but it is also kind of very American that there's a lot of chances. America creates soccer talent. That does happen. But coordination and making this all work together has always been a very American problem. That's why your local MLS team, you don't really care about, unless you're from here. St. Louis really cares. It has a lot of soccer history. But prime example, Chicago, I love dearly, as you know. No one cares about the Chicago Fire in the lovely city of Chicago, even though you have a really good soccer city and a lot of people who care about soccer in the city of Chicago. Obviously, a very heavy immigrant population from across the world, right? There's a big Polish population, Hispanic population. You could pick a lot of different parts of the world. All who care about soccer that are in Chicago, they don't give a damn about the Chicago Fire. Nor should they, because they're mid and the MLS doesn't care. Rant mostly over outside the fact that a good, the most American way possible, capitalism won.
Well, yeah, so June 11th are the first games I saw. And the other thing that I heard was that, so there's games at MetLife, and so that seats 80,000. Mm-hmm. And supposedly with the way that they're doing the train thing, to get people there, they can only take 10,000 people an hour on train. So they have no idea how the hell they're going to get people there. Which
also, you know how crazy hotels and everything else around it are?
Nuts. New York is crazy to begin with. And then now you're going to throw this on top of it?
I have friends, and I will not I can't give up too much information about the situation, but that had real opportunities to get tickets at somewhat face value, which, mind you, the face value tickets have been okay. They have not been they're not your baseball game, right? But they are not terrible. And they can only go on a certain amount of dates. I think one of the places was New York. And I had the opportunity to just at least think about it. and it was going to cost me to go to New York to watch one of these games. And this was not, mind you, if I don't remember the game off the top of my head.
Probably wasn't even watch like.
Well, it's not two teams that like if I like remembered vividly, and any of our options, we were not like countries that have major superstars, etc. Maybe one team was. I don't remember any of the matchups off the top of my head. No matter where we went, like I think it was one was New York, one was maybe Houston or Dallas, wherever Texas City has it. One more was I think on the West Coast. To do like a weekend, like fly, try to stay somewhere, go to this game and get back was going to run you over $2,000.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, and like this is again for a sport that is trying to grow in this country. I get it. Again, you're going to have folks from across the world here, etc. But yeah, that has been challenging. It will still be very fun and all these other things. There's going to be a lot of good moments in between. But before we get there, there is a lot of fun in the English Premier League. Whenever Caleb, you mature enough to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning, you will start appreciating. That's usually how people get into soccer. Is it's early in the morning, so you make a cup of coffee and your breakfast and you watch it.
Nope.
And then you start drinking on the weekend mornings.
Nope.
And that's the appeal for a lot of folks.
I love one football, and that is American football, Jerry. That is what I love.
Man, what a setup! What a play!
That's what I'm gonna love for the rest of my life. One football, not the stuff that's played over the pond. I like the real football. I like the stuff where we hit each other and we cheer and we get very excited. That's what I love. Gladiator stuff.
I hate to admit this. You would like Arsenal. They like hitting people.
Gladiator type stuff is what I like. No. So this is very interesting. This came out about a week ago. The American Football Coaches Association recommendations for college football. So all the coaches kind of they must have did like a survey thing.
Mm-hmm. They also meet around, I think, January. They usually a coaches convention. So they usually get a couple headlines out of it.
This is on the precipice of expansion playoff, not expansion playoff, changes to how NIL has done that type of stuff. So there is 6 recommendations that stood out and are pretty much the solid recommendations that they want. Jerry, you've not heard of these.
Nope. Caleb told me they were going to do this. I did not look it up on purpose.
This is they're very intriguing. Some of them I'm like, okay. Some of them are like, whatever. Don't ever do it. So one of the first ones is end the season earlier. That's a major priority. That's like priority number one. They want to end the season earlier. They want the entire season, including the college football playoff, to end by the second Monday in January. So basically, whatever January 1st is, that next week, season would be done. Some people argue the season should be over January 1st, but the Coaches Association is arguing they want it done no later by the second Monday in January. So not like what we're going to have this next year where it's like the end of January.
Oh, dude, it's so bad.
So they want it super early. They want it done faster. They also want to eliminate the conference championship games. Regular season standings would determine champions, reduce extra games and injury risk, of course, Jerry, because they care about player safety, shortens the calendar and makes room for expanded playoffs. So in their mind, in their model, get rid of the conference championship games.
Add a playoff game.
But yeah, basically, that next weekend is playoff.
Player health, right? It's front and center.
It's all it's about. It's always about that. Next one is expand the playoffs, possibly up to 24 teams. Of course, coaches want 24 teams in the playoffs, Jerry. It's exactly why we got 76 teams in the NCAA men's and women's tournaments for basketball, because that's what, who wants more expanded playoffs more than the coaches? Because
the city of Dayton.
That too. But if your team makes the playoff, you're in. You look good. You can make more money. Your coach is prosperous. You can put it on a banner. Look at what we've done. Look how many times I've taken my team to the playoff. That's what we do, So, of course, the coaches want up to 24 teams. And that's pretty much sounds like what everybody's somewhat going to agree on. I don't know how that's going to work. I think it's way too many. But this is what the Coaches Association wants. Reduce bye weeks from 2 to 1. So that, again, goes into the shorten of the season. So only 1 bye week instead of 2. I don't really necessarily have a problem with that. This next one is guarantee minimum rest between games, at least 6 days between games for rest. Yet again, I don't know how that kind of works with the shorten of the season, but player health, that's all we care about, Jerry. That is exactly what we care about. And the last one is very interesting. protect the Army-Navy game. Specifically wants the Army-Navy game to remain standalone.
Sure.
So, but that is kind of the president has been saying that. And he has said that he would do an executive order for that. I don't know how that works either.
Don't worry, the president's also going to fix college football.
That's right, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just what the American Football Coaches Association recommends for college football and the changes that they would like to see. Like I said, some of them I'm okay with. Some of them I'm like, that is the dumbest thing ever. But I think just the one I really have a problem with, which is the 24 teams for the playoff. I think that is ridiculous. I think that's way too many. We kind of proved this year that the 11th and 12th team can't even. We proved this year that the number one overall team couldn't even win the championship in the playoff. So why are we going to put 24 teams in it? That's just me. I do like the shortening of the season, get it done earlier, get it out of the way, and then that can open up the calendar for the rest of things. Basically, what they want is this is clearly like what the NFL does is you end the season, then we have our free agency transfer portal, recruiting thing, or coaching carousel. That's exactly what they want. So the coaches are like, hey, we want it done this way, kind of open it up. But yeah, that is what they recommend for the old college of football.
One of the things I find fascinating is sometimes coaches argue for things that will probably make their job worse. And I'd argue the 24 team playoff for coaches specifically will lead to more coaches getting fired.
Yeah, because if you're a team that's supposed to be in the playoff, there's teams. I'll say 10 teams in a 24 playoff. You should make it every year.
And that's going to be the standard. And you know what? There's going to be 10 teams, right? They like your Ohio States, your Alabamas, right? Your Georgia, that they're going to come in. There's 10 schools that I think actively in your we could probably make that list a different day. Whenever this does expand, that should make it every year, right? There's going to be 30 teams. I think that's their right.
Yeah.
So now at least 20 of them every year are going to be out of this to some degree. So I find that fascinating that you want an expanded playoff because one, the playoff revenue and all the other stuff and what actually sticks better on most resumes? Conference championships. And I'm not the biggest, we have to save conference championships. They're money grabs and networks. We can all be adults here. But you know what they also are? If you're a coach? A title.
Yeah.
A physical piece of hardware that says you won something. It's a trophy game. Right? And it's not just a rivalry trophy game, right? You have rivalry trophy games, those matter, right? But they're a physical trophy that says you won something. And not alone that, in your conference.
Yeah.
I get it again. With the conferences expanding, conference championship games at some point are probably going to become mute, especially if you lose one more conference, which we might be down that road. We've talked about this before, right, et cetera. That's always a possibility. I get that. And so, am I the staunchest defender of a conference championship game? No. Could it actually end up hurting coaches? Yes, right? Because, just for example, let's say Manny Diaz goes off a cliff right now at Duke the next 3 years. You know what he's going to claim to the next two of them if they're struggling? Hey, I brought Duke to the ACC title and won one. When was the last time that happened? Right? So now there's two arguments already that are going to hurt a lot of coaches and create more turnover. The season ending earlier is a fair point, and it's something that I think not just coaches but a lot of people in college football have been clamoring for. What's going to have to happen to do that is that week 0 needs to become week 1.
Yeah.
Week 0, and I like week 0 as a concept, but I also understand if it dies. It's fun to have the Ireland game, and you kind of get your taste. And a lot of the teams are really bad because it's their first game, and teams grow the most from their first game to their second, right? Now the solution to this is you make week 0 week 1, and you put all the cupcakes there, and just let everyone get their cupcake out of the way. I know the SEC, everyone in the Big Ten's like the SEC, those cupcakes. This is your week 1 where you play your MAC school, you play your Sun Belt school, or whatever. Then and you move, and so that's this third last week of August, and you make Labor Day. You keep Labor Day being a big deal, and that's something we need to talk about when it comes to all this. Labor Day is kind of still college football's weekend.
Yeah,
there's very quickly a world where it couldn't be. you all know we all talk about scheduling all this. The NFL is going to go to 18 games in a bye week, a second
They
bye week.
will. That is true.
The Dallas kind of teased that. That creates more opportunities to go overseas. It also creates more TV revenue, all this other stuff, right? So an 18-game season with a second bye week, I think is more than likely from the NFL. Where are they going to have to go to make that happen? Probably Labor Day. So then you're going to have to fight with the NFL. Whenever we talk about college football, the NFL has to be talked about. It is frustrating, especially because they're not supposed to be one-to-one, but they are, right? 99% of kids go to college to go to the NFL when they, that path where every other sport, there's a little bit more ways you could do it, not in football. And even though they're not together, there's literally broadcasting acts in right now in Congress, written in the law, to try to keep some college football alive. Granted, they were written in the 60s. Some things have changed, as you know, but this matters, right? So ending the season earlier is not a problem. It's just going to have to change some things. Trying to put the transfer portal right after that is going to be a massive problem. The reason the transfer portal is where it is because we've all been, me and you've been to college. That's when you go on winter break. Yep. If you're going to transfer from a school, that's the end of a semester. There's only so many kids that can start semester X, their spring semester at school, and then just walk out and leave, right? And go to another school or have these credits transfer and all this, right? Now, do all these guys think about that? They're in the transfer portal? Not really, right? But for the kids that go up, or for the kids that might go from a G5 to a P5, like that stuff matters. Will my stuff transfer, etc. Yep. So that's never going to happen. And if anything, it's probably going to happen in the spring. So I'm all for moving the season earlier, but getting rid of like a conference championship and expanding the playoffs will lose more coaches their jobs and create more turnover because there'll be more expectation. So I don't really get it. And it's like you can argue player health all you want. When they end up moving the season earlier, guess what? Every school in the Western, like in both the SEC and now kind of the new Pac-12, but like pick your Arizona States or in California, et cetera, where it's hotter than what, you're going to have kids that are absolutely throwing themselves out there and beating their body up, probably even more because it's 95 degrees with 80% humidity. And like there's some places that's unavoidable. Again, like Arizona's a prime example. You could play in Arizona August 20th or September 15th. Yeah. It's still going to be 90, right? Florida, kind of the same thing. It's going to be hot to start the season, roughly whenever we start the season. But for a lot of places where you kind of start getting that cool down in September, et cetera, you're now getting rid of that. And so, like, sure, we care about the players' health, this and that. We need to stop lying about this. These kids make money now. Every year we get closer and closer. These kids they're going to have some type of say. And when they want to make all these big changes, at some point, something's going to break, especially when contracts are based off of this, all this other stuff. Everything's going to have to change around it. And it's a mess. But I am sometimes surprised that these coaches will argue for things that can lead to more of them getting fired.
Yeah.
Really look out for these guys.
They don't worry about that, Jerry, because if you're a team on the bubble right now, you think it's right. All right, this is also from Ross Dellinger. This was from earlier in the month of May here. The college sports presidential committees, they have produced a draft of preliminary ideas, including establishing a new governing entity, strict cap circumvention, G6 playoff, regionalizing Olympic sports, capping college coach/AD salaries, eligibility/transfer standards, and pooling TV rights.
See, this is the thing. The stuff for coaches, I get. And like administrators, fine. You want to cap how much a coach makes? That's fine. And a lot of these guys don't do it for the money. I know it seems ironic. You know how many these guys started as like GAs that made like $30,000 and can barely afford the college town they're living in? They're not doing it to become the multimillionaires. They just love ball.
Well, that, and as long as they're getting paid what their peers are getting paid, they're fine.
Yeah. Doesn't really matter, right? That's fine. When they start really messing with like how much a kid can make.
Yeah, that's crazy to me, dude.
You know what that is? It's a lawsuit. It's a lawsuit they're going to lose. It doesn't matter if it's the NCAA that's the governing body. It doesn't matter if it's the new governing body. Do you know how crazy it is that some of these NCAA cases have gone to the Supreme Court, our current Supreme Court, mind you, and there is just an 8-0 opinion, or a 7-0 opinion, or 9-0 opinion. Like, nobody dissents, and they're all like, yeah, the NCAA, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know how hard that is to get nowadays? Like a pure, like, you just suck, like a clean sweep. And I'm not trying to take away from our government institutions right now, but you don't get a lot of those anymore.
No.
And the NCAA likes getting them a lot. So that's what that's going to lead to. The G6 playoffs, that just sucks. I get it. It's all money. Again, when I talk about when we talk about Super League, that's the same vibes we're getting at right here.
Like, it's the exact same thing.
Put all these guys down here, put us up here. That's what a Super League is.
Haves and have-nots.
I keep sounding like a mad scientist until my science starts working out. But like, that's where we get closer and closer to. And then the funniest one to me is regionalizing non-revenue sports. It's almost like teams like playing people in their region.
Yeah, or that it should have never have changed from before.
And also, if you're pulling TV rights, if everyone's making around the same amount of money, I get having cool non-conference games. But the current conferences are set up to make the cool TV game every week.
Yeah.
I think that's what we've talked about a fair bit, and it is such an important point that when we look at the slates in a couple months, the TV schedule, the conferences are made to where the SEC always has a big game. The Big Ten, the same thing, right? Where even on a week 5, you're starting to get into conference play. Like, Northwestern's going to play whoever, but then you have Nebraska, Michigan, right? And that could be a big game. And if that doesn't work, we'll throw now Indiana to a bubbling Big Ten team, right? Let's say it's Illinois again, or Iowa can be. You can make Iowa a big game when they play Oregon, right? Yep. Oh, we can have a regional game this week. UCLA will play Washington. That game has stakes, right? The SEC is doing the same thing, right? All these guys do the same thing. That's what these current conferences are made for. And while that is great for the average fan, right, and for people who don't care as much about the sport and maybe their schools and all this, it's great. It really is. And it provides numbers. It's doing what it's supposed to. These TV numbers are good and all this stuff. But like, TV ratings are not a good sign of the health of a sport. They're a sign that they make TV, the TV ratings are up. That's what they track. They're not tracking if fans are actually enjoying more stuff like that. It's just that you got eyeballs. That's great to some degree. That's great for the TV, people who bought these conferences and bought the rights, etc. But at the end of the day, I go back to the fact that like, those regional games are the ones that the fans care about the most. It is those rivalries with people nearby, etc. Caleb, there's a world where Missouri could have been in the Big Ten.
Yep.
That was a legit, honest thought and something that was talked about. I like you. If Missouri played Michigan State, I'd root for Michigan State. I'm just kidding. I'd root for Missouri. But I wouldn't care that much. I think that's cool. We get to go to East Lansing. Maybe I talk shit to my sister. That's cool.
Feels weird. Just feels really weird.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what? If we played every 2 to 3 years, I'd be like, yeah, I don't like Michigan State. All this. If we play Michigan, it's a Block M battle.
Yeah, Block M battle, of course.
I'd be like, I don't like Michigan. I'd rather Missouri win. But when we play Iowa State, I care more because we played Iowa State before I was ever a thought, before my parents were a thought.
No.
Right? And there's history there. When we play Kansas, a state that has two states that historically hate each other for so many deeper reasons than just football, that matters. Right? Even now when Missouri plays some teams, like I don't like Florida. Florida we kind of created a rivalry with. I don't like South Carolina. And, they're a pseudo-rival. I don't care if we play Vanderbilt. Even when Vanderbilt's good. Right? Like last year, that was a fun game. It was a ranked game. I cared because I wanted us to win. I didn't care because it was Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Seriously. And that's, and I didn't have like this big old, like, we need to stomp the ground. The Vanderbilt's supposed to be the bottom of the SEC. When we play Tennessee, I don't like them. They're an annoying fan base. They don't hate the state of Tennessee.
Well,
that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is all these changes are going to depend on how much money it's going to be made. Like at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. Why do they want to expand the playoff? Because the schools want to make more money, the conferences want to make more money, and ESPN wants to make more money. That's what it all comes down to. This is all going to come down to money. How can we make the most money? What avenue is going to make us the most money? And right now, their thought process is, just like with the NCAA men's and women's tournament expanding, you expand the playoff, You make more money. I think with the expanded playoff in NCAA men's and women's, I think they're going to generate another couple billions of dollars just off of expanding it. So their thought process is with the football is wait, we have football, more people watch that. If we expand this playoff, people love football in this country. We can do that. It's all going to come down to money. No matter that's all it comes down to. That's why we've expanded the playoff from 4 to 12 and as much as ESPN doesn't want to have their hand or say their hands in the cookie jar, their hand is knee deep in the cookie jar and they're kind of that silent person there with all these playoff talks and everything. But at the end of the day, all these changes, do they happen or how do they happen? It all comes down to money.
Well, what is I find fascinating because like you talked about earlier with that Ross Dellinger article that in this presidential committee, like I'm curious who backs this because for a lot of programs and a lot of institutions, you're putting yourself in a pressure cooker for no reason.
It's people that aren't involved that much anymore, Jerry. You have like Nick Saban and all those guys that are going back. Those are the guys that are making these decisions because they don't want to deal with it.
I'm curious, like a guy like Saban, right? Like I get it. If Marco Rubio is like everything, right? That's like the joke. If Marco Rubio is like, I don't really care. I just want like this and that. That's fine. For a guy like Saban, Saban's tree. Yeah, you have like a Kirby of these world, right? But you have a lot of guys in smaller jobs or their assistants at smaller places that he knows that the ecosystem of the sport relies on the whole sport, not just the top half of the sport.
No,
and he may not be directly involved, right? But like, this is the thing. So many more groups. Like if you're Kansas State, if you're Cincinnati, if you're maybe not Clemson, right? But you're Virginia Tech. If you're Missouri, right? If you're one of these schools that is not considered one of the elite blue blood programs, with all the changes that are expected to happen to some degree, a lot of the change also matters on your stock if you're hot right now. That is what has led to some conferences taking teams over other teams, right? Ask Memphis. Ask them how they're doing, right? But if you're on the kind of cusp of like a conference that could get swallowed up or you're not a hot team in the conference, under the ideas, you might be ended up in the G6 with them.
Yeah.
You want to talk about money and revenue, like all the TV rights to be pooled. That's great if you're Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't give a damn. They're in the middle of one of the two conferences that makes a lot of money, right? I think the Big Ten's broadcast deal's a little bigger. Whenever the SEC renegotiates, it will be a little bigger from them. Then the Big Ten will be a little bigger. Like it's just a game of slowly going up, right? But for so many schools, you could lose millions of dollars if you wanted to go to this idea. It's all about money. It's frustrating. It's like European soccer, crazy.
Yeah, it's all about money, and you have a new school and you have an old school, and they don't. It feels like they don't talk. Like they have to come in the middle, but you have guys like Saban that want it done the old way, and then you have this new age like no, it needs to be done this way, and they don't talk and they don't communicate. I think that's the other problem. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but at the end of the day, it's all going to come back down to the good old dollar sign dollar when you look at it. But
you're right. Money's all the talk, man. But you want a sport that is actually doing really well this year. And we're going to probably talk about a little bit more. The team that I had fun watching tonight, Chicago White Sox.
Right. Of course you did. I'm glad you had a grand time watching your team. But no, baseball is up. The numbers are up crazy.
It's something I'm keeping an eye on because we've talked a lot about how we don't talk about baseball a lot. And I'm not saying like, we're getting to the dire days. Get ready for a baseball talk, boys. Like, we might end up doing that. Who knows? It's a weird world. But this is what an up year for the sport. And
in a good year. They're in like a contract here. They are in a contract here with these TV networks because ESPN told them we don't want you anymore. And I don't know if it's because they're no longer with ESPN, but the numbers are up.
The vibes around this, I'm very curious. And it's something we're also going to keep an eye on. Like this weekend, rivalry weekend in general, was actually quite fascinating. And like we have a lot of good storylines coming out here. I think a lot of the teams are doing really well also are really helping to this. St. Louis is having a solid season. When baseball is better, when the Cardinals are better. I know you hate that, Caleb, and that's fine. But that's a city that like thrives on baseball. I mean, your Cubbies, even though they couldn't figure it out on the South Side this weekend, had been really, really good. Wrigley's been packed this year. Atlanta's been really good. That's another big market. Both teams in New York kind of have something going on. Like the Mets, I know, have been struggling, but like they're starting to figure it out. New York Yankees are good.
Phillies are
Boston
now over
sucks too. That's
500.
funny. The AL Central is just legit everywhere.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean the AL Central. Sorry, AL Central sucks. As an AL Centraler, the AL Central sucks. The NL Central though is insane.
It is good. It is really good. 44% increase this year.
Very curious, especially with the lockout coming in. That's something we're going to keep monitoring.
There's baseball. It's going to be. It's very interesting. There's a lot going on. I would say Rob Manfred went from probably being one of the most hated, if not the most hated commissioner in all of sports, to he is right up there as a guy who him and Roger Goodell have kind of overtaken everything for how to run a league successfully and make it pivot it in a way, in a direction that nobody thought was going to be able to happen.
Yeah, but like Manfred, I think right now the vibes are great, but man, things can get real interesting real quick.
Well, I think he wants to do this lockout, and he's done. He's already said that. He's already said he does not want to be commissioner for much longer. So I think he wants to see through this lockout, and that's his scapegoat. If it doesn't go well, he can get out. But he's done very well for viewership and getting more eyes on the game and changing the game in the right direction. But yeah, no, look, it's been fun. Games have been fun. I do like how it's very competitive across the board for the most part. It kind of feels like you get that vibe. Nolan says, Jerry, well played to your boys. Me and Caleb are in it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. But you know what? You need that. That's what gets more people involved. When it's just a punching bag to the one side, you had that in the early 2000s with the Yankees, Red Sox. It was the Yankees were punching them left and right, and then the Red Sox came back, and it made it even better, and it gave everybody more excitement. So that's what you need. But, yeah, it has been fun so far.
Okay, I have an honest question for you. I need the answers. I've been searching between friend groups, places, etc. Do you think the White Sox and Cubs are rivals?
I
know my answer.
I would say yes, they are, because people I know, Southsiders, hate the Cubs, and they are kind of looked at as the underdog team. And in Chicago, it is one of just for the vibe I get is they look at the Cubs like we don't really care for those people up there in the north. And it is a rivalry because the Cubs look down on the White Sox, and the White Sox look up at the Cubs. It's just kind of the vibe I get. So yes, I do say it's rivalry.
See,
now, the Green Bay Sox chants in the stands, that's fun. But yes, when it comes to baseball, there is a rivalry.
I've been curious to kind of get the pulse check on this because I think weekends like this can make this sport much more long-term sustainable. Not just like the White Sox Cubs. One thing I wanted to say is it was so fun to have this series mean something.
Yeah, no, it is fun. I hate that we lost to the White Sox. I hate that we lost to the White Sox.
And also, like, we know you guys are going up against Milwaukee, right? That's a big series, obviously. The White Sox are one game out right now of the AL Central. I'm not sure if that's going to last, right? But one of those games meant something in terms of standings, which everyone seems to only care about nowadays. But it's fun. And I think that is something that needs to continue to grow around the sport. And I'm hoping this rivalry weekend kind of proves that. I mean, I saw a little bit here in Kansas City, St. Louis, like the tarps off. For those who saw the baseball team, Stephen F. Austin showed up to the I-70 series and took over the right field stands by taking their shirts off, and that was a walk-off game. It's been fun. These types of middle series, especially because, okay, as a prime example, we have one Game 7 tonight. We had one last night. The playoffs are winding down. I'm very curious, and this has been a very fun MLB season. I thought we needed to kind of just even point that out, not just because the White Sox took 2 from the Cubs this week, because if it was the other way around with how that game went, I still want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And also just the overall chaos. This is a very, very, and I think very, very fun early start to this baseball season. I think around the horn, in a lot of different spots. There's some teams that I think are really underperforming. I'm looking at the Giants, right? Tommy DeVito, whoever his name was, the manager from college, who's struggling there. The AL's a mess. The NL's really solid, right? And a lot of teams that are historically really good or have a really good fan bases are having a lot of fun right now. So I think it's something we're going to have to keep monitoring, especially if the next time our two teams meet, there's still stakes on the line. That'll be very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, just when if you look at the standings, so Tampa Bay is currently the leader in the East. Cleveland is the leader in the Central. A's are the leader in the West. Atlanta leads the East. Cubs lead the Central, and then the Dodgers lead the West. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. Every team in the NL Central, like you said, is over 500. Um, yeah, I mean, even like the Rockies have 18 wins, and
Yeah.
last year it felt like it took them 100 games to get to 18 wins. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. It's one of those. It's with baseball. It's one of those. How do they keep it up? How do they keep it going as the season goes on? But so far as almost 2 full months into the season, it's been going good. And then you get ready for the All Star break and all of that. Um, it's yeah, it's been fun.
Boys, keep grinding MLB. The MLB with the MLB, was the All Star game on the way. That's more content, so you guys be ready. Keep going through your team affinity.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's one of those things. Luke deleted MLB the Show because he got irritated with the game.
I
And
get
Luke
that.
Luke historically has not gotten great card pulls. He has bad luck, so he got a little frustrated and deleted the game. So we lost one.
He'll
Uh,
be back. Don't worry.
I don't know. Poor drink out. He deleted the game. Like
That
he was.
summer, that summer video game whole boy.
I don't know. I don't know. The new 007 game's coming out.
We're just waiting for GTA.
Yeah, that's supposedly
We're waiting
pre-order
for GTA.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Pre-order tomorrow.
supposedly.
Saw a rumor, saw a leak. I know Conor McGregor's back. GTA. I mean, this is what are we living life again?
Yeah, we might just be back.
Am I 12 again?
Don't answer that question.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
But yeah,
Listen,
so game 7, Pistons starting. That's just how it has to be. That is tonight, game 7, Pistons Cavs. Trevor, he's on baby standby, I guess, at this point now.
we wish them luck. We wish them luck.
So we'll see
Same
how
time.
that goes. But yeah, I mean, as always, thanks for watching.